If you've not already heard, there's some exciting news for Knack developers. Normand has created a plugin called Kneuron. And if Normand is not familiar to you, Normand Defayette is the CEO and owner of Cortex Research and Development. And for those that don't know, he is the builder and owner of the KTL. And he's been working on a plugin which a couple of weeks ago had some very limited functionality, and he's built it out incredibly fast, and he's called it Kneuron with a K for Knack, and Kneuron because his company is Cortex. So in this video I'll be running through how you can install the plugin and go through some of the amazing features that it offers Knack developers. I'll put a link in the video description to this page, and as you can see, Normand has said that Kneuron is developed with the goal of making the Knack Builder more efficient and user-friendly. It's designed by Knack developers for Knack developers, focused on features that matter most in day-to-day development. So it is made with love for the Knack community. So as always, Normand is doing this free of charge. So I personally really appreciate all his efforts that he puts into KTL and now into Kneuron. So to jump into this, the first thing we need to do is get started and download it. So you can click on the page to get to the wiki, and this gives you a lot more information here. But the first thing you need to do is go over to the right hand side to installation, and you can either visit the Chrome web store, but because this is very new, there are probably a couple of versions behind because there's processes to go through to get it published. So it's probably easiest to just click on the Kneuron zip and download this straight to your local device. After clicking on the neuron.zip, it will download to your downloads folder. So you just need to right click and extract the folder, and once that's extracted, I'm going to delete the zip version, and you need to store this somewhere where you can access it, and you need to keep it permanently on your PC. So I'm just going to drag it into my files, and it's now sitting inside my files folder. Heading over into Chrome, if you click on the three dots in the right hand corner, come down to extensions, manage extensions, toggle on the developer mode in the top right hand corner, and then over on the left click on load unpacked and navigate to the folder, so Kneuron, and select, and then the plugin is installed. So you can remove it, obviously switch it off, and we're currently, as of today, on 1.5.0. I actually use Edge, which is very slightly different. So if you go down to extensions, manage extensions, and on the left hand side make sure that the switch for developer mode is toggled on, and then same here, load unpacked, and navigate to the location and select the folder, and once again the plugin is installed and ready to go. And on mine I'm just going to pin this, so if I come back to my extensions, and I'm just going to pin this to the menu at the top. And when you click on the icon, you get a little user guide of all the different features, which will go through kind of these automated ones. And there's a number of very handy keyboard shortcuts. So if you're a keyboard warrior, so it gives you some quicker navigation. Before I dive in, I'm just going to switch this off and show you a comparison of before and after. So going into the builder, you'll be familiar that when you hover over a component, you get this pop-up tooltip, which is very useful, I think, in the early days, but can become slightly annoying as you're more of an experienced user. So every time you hover over onto a link, you get the little pop-up. So if I go back into my extensions and enable that, come back to the builder and do a refresh, that's now been disabled. So I can hover around and not get my little pop-ups. You may also notice that we have the view numbers on all of our components, and on the left hand side we also have all the scene numbers. So if you are a Knack developer and you're getting into any kind of coding, this is a really quick way to reference scene numbers and view numbers throughout the app in the builder. So I've just toggled Kneuron back off again so I can go back to how it is pre-plugin. And I've set up a page here on my breeds page with a standard button that adds a new record, and then a table of breeds. And this table is set to show 25 records. Now obviously you wouldn't likely do this method, but if I scroll down a bit further, there's a second table which is set to show 50 records. And I'm going to go down a bit further, and there's another table which is going to show 100 records. And right at the bottom there is a details view. Now I know I can whiz my mouse wheel to get to the top much more quickly, but actually scrolling around, the first table with 25 records is not too bad, but my second table with 50 takes a lot more scrolling to get past, and my third table with 100 records is obviously twice the size. And also I have groups on this, so I group this by group 1. If I scroll down, I've got group 2 and group 3, and then right at the bottom is my customer details, or are my customer details. So I'm going to turn Kneuron back on and then do a refresh. And now I can see I've got my view numbers. I don't have the pop-up tooltip now, and my first table, which has 25 per page, is much smaller. It's just showing 3 rows. My next table, which is showing 50, also once again just shows 3 rows, and my last table, which is showing 100, is showing 3 rows for each of the groups. So group 1, group 2 and group 3, and then at the bottom of the page are my customer details. So a lot less navigation for moving around more complex pages. It also provides you with some filtering on tables, pages and copying. So you'll notice on the data side I've got a filter tables, and if I type breed I can filter my tables down in place. It also filters the user roles, so I have a user role called finance here, and if I come back to the top and type FIN, I've got a table called finance records, and I've also got my user role called finance. On the pages you also have a filter, so if I click in here and typed view, this is just going to show me pages that are set up with a view details. So if I typed details, you'll see all the pages here match that criteria. The only slight challenge is when the page loads, everything's normally collapsed, and I chatted to Normand about this, and he tried incredibly hard to set this filter so it would search when things were collapsed, but unfortunately there wasn't a way around it. So you will need to open up the sections to be able to do your page searches. So if I come back to there and just type detail, you'll see we get pages for the details. One of the functions which is going to be really useful, and it does save a lot of time already for me, is the ability to be able to filter when you're copying a view. So this is obviously a very small application, but like many of you, I've got client applications which have got hundreds of pages, and you're trying to find the right page, scrolling through the list to locate the page to copy it to. So now you can just click into here and filter it down to the page for calendar, or I could look for breed, and it was going to give me all the pages that are relevant to that. So really useful for being able to filter where you're copying or moving pages to. Once again, I've switched off the plugin to show you what it looks like currently. So on the left hand side we have data, and if you're part of the new flows trial, it goes data, flows, tasks and pages. And actually I think most builders prefer the pages to be directly underneath the data. So as an example, on the left hand side here, this is how we would prefer it. So data and then pages, tasks, flows, settings and data model. But currently it's set like this. So the plugin resolves it and changes it to this method. So after turning the plugin back on, you can see we go data, pages and tasks. Another useful feature if you're a developer and also a KTL user, if I look at a page which is going to add a record, on the settings, the plugin also makes the description box a lot larger, and also if I do the emails, we get a much larger message field. Heading over into my client table, I'm just going to look at the record for Boris Johnson in the record history. And if you're a user of the record history, you'll be familiar with the fact that when you scroll down, the headers go off the top of the screen. So it can make it quite challenging to visualize what data you're actually looking at. So I've just switched the plugin back on again, and now when I view my history, we have sticky headers on the record history. As I showed at the beginning of the video, if you click on the pinned plugin, there are some instructions here for some navigation. And if you are more of a keyboard warrior, you may find these some time saving. So you can use the Alt key and then 1 through 6 to navigate the vertical menu on the left hand side. So currently I'm on the data tab, so I can hold down the Alt key and press 2, and that will move me to the pages. Alt and 3 will take me to tasks, Alt and 4 to flows if you have flows, and obviously then Alt and 5 will move me into settings, and likewise onto the data model. You can also use the Alt and W, E and R to navigate the horizontal menus along the top. So if I do Alt and E and R, I'm jumping between the settings, back to rules, to views, back to rules, and back to settings. If you're inside a component, you can also use the view settings tools, which is Alt, Q, A, Z or X. That will cycle you through the options on the left hand side. So Alt and Q, Alt and A, Alt and Z. So that's a quick overview of the new Kneuron plugin by Normand of Cortex R&D. So hopefully you found that of interest. If you did, please give us a thumbs up. Appreciate the support, and I'll catch you on the next one.